Hi everybody, welcome back. In this tutorial, I'm going to be going over the learning assessment for week 2, and I'm also going to be going over the engagement activities that you can complete to continue earning your engagement credit points. Now, something you do want to keep in mind again for UL100ZB, since we grade learning assessments as complete or incomplete, and you can earn engagement credit points as you go along, remember again that you're determining your own grades. So always go back to the syllabus that we have for this class to see the number of engagement credits and the number of learning assessments that you would need to complete in order to earn an A or B or other grade in this class. I do want to spend a little bit of time with this learning assessment because, again, I want you to be comfortable with this. And I also want to emphasize, again, the complete or incomplete possibilities with a learning assessment. So we're down on week 2 for Plan and Gather. Hopefully by this point, when you watch this tutorial, you've already watched our video tutorials for Plan and for Gather. It's really essential that you watch all of the video tutorials in order before you attend our engagement activities and any learning assessments for that week. So let's look at the first engagement activity that you can do. So probably by the time you watch this video tutorial, you will have received an email from me, Cynthia Kane, about the Threshold Achievement Test of Information Literacy Pretest. These are not graded, so we're not keeping track of right or wrong answers in this context. Basically, this is a way to evaluate your current information skills and what you'll be able to gain as you complete this course. So I will have already sent you an email that has information about how to do these tests and student keys and test keys that you need to enter. You're going to be actually doing 2 tests. One is called Strategic Searching, and the other is called Evaluating Process and Authority. As you complete each test, you will actually receive a PDF of your results. We want you to save the PDF to your computer and submit the PDF for each of the modules. So you will actually submit 2 PDFs. You'll have 2 results for each module. Submit both the PDFs here under Submit Assignment. Once you do that, again, this is not graded, you will receive 5 points per test. So if you submit 1 test, 1 PDF, you get 5 points. If you submit both of them as PDFs, you'll get 10 points for your engagement credits. If you have any problems accessing the test or completing anything, please email me as soon as possible at ckane1@emporia.edu. These are going to be due by 11:59 p.m. on October 25th. So let's go back here. The second engagement activity that you can complete is something that we want you to start thinking about. So this week, we want you to start thinking about some potential topics that you can start researching for upcoming learning assessments, including the research plan that we're going to go over in just a bit. Now, a topic might change, but for this engagement activity, we want you to think about a topic that you would want to research. This might be something you're already doing for a class, or it could be for a personal information need, or just something that you're just really interested in doing. After you do that, in this discussion thread, please list what you think would be a useful primary source for your topic and why, a useful secondary source and why, and a useful tertiary source to help you find primary and secondary sources and why you think that would be useful. So returning again to my topic of opioid epidemic in public libraries. A useful primary source for me might be an interview with a public librarian, perhaps in a larger community in which they are dealing with, hopefully and sadly, patrons who are perhaps using opioids, or what they've dealt with in terms of patrons. That interview with that librarian would be my primary source of information because I'm talking directly to the source. The secondary source for that topic could be some of the articles that I found that were on Library and Information Science Source. The tertiary source for information where I found those articles would be library and information science source. So you see how that's working from primary to secondary to tertiary. Really think in terms of these areas that you think that would help you in terms of the topic that you would like to research. Again, your topic might change a little bit, but we're hoping that you can have something pretty well firmed up. So we'll go back here. And finally, our learning assessment number 2 for this week will be constructing a research plan. Now this might take you a little bit of time, so I want to show you the steps on this. So what we want to do is have you start thinking in terms of actually creating a research plan for the rest of this class for a potential topic that you're going to be using for some upcoming learning assessments, including one on recommended resources and a web portfolio that you're going to be creating for this class as a culminating learning assessment. So we want you to have that experience of making a detailed plan. The first thing you will want to do is download and save this worksheet, and I've already done this. And this is what the worksheet will look like. So we want you to put your name and date of submission, and you'll start by listing 3 to 5 potential topics that you would be interested in researching for this course. Choose one topic and write about what you already know about it and how you know this information about the topic. And then think about what you would still want to know about the topic and respond below. And then what we would want to do is have you narrow your topic for number 2 into at least 4 distinct research questions. So a broad topic for me could be opioid epidemic in public libraries. A narrow topic could be, what are public librarians' responsibilities toward patrons that are using opioids? Another narrower topic, again, could be perhaps medical implications, legal implications of helping patrons. And then that research question again could be perhaps, what are the legal implications of public librarians and patrons who are using opioids? Think about that as a potential example of how you're going to narrow this down. And you're going to do this for actually 4 distinct research questions. So think about 4 different perspectives of your topic, and I think that will help you a little bit. Choose one of your research questions, indicate which one you're using by highlighting it or putting a star or asterisk by it, and then do what we've been doing in some of our previous modules. Brainstorm potential search terms and individual words or short phrases that would return relevant resources on the topic. So remember that truncation symbol of the asterisk. So I might list public library and put an asterisk by it, opioid epidemic, opioid crisis, public librarians, medical implications, safety factors. You see what I'm doing? I'm brainstorming a lot of different ways that I might search my topic. What formats are going to be appropriate for your topic? Remember that mine's fairly current, so I might not actually find any books on my specific topic. Yours might be different. So what I might be saying is that I need to find some newspaper articles about public libraries that are dealing with the opioid crisis. I might need to find, again, some journal articles or perhaps professional newsletter articles that have been written by public librarians that are dealing with this topic. If I could find, maybe not a blog post, but I might be able to find websites of public libraries that would actually outline their policies about dealing with different patrons. That's the type of information that I'm going to need. And this is what you're going to do for your topic. What kinds of formats are going to be appropriate? And then tell us why. Then you're going to go to the library's webpage at library.emporia.edu and click on the Databases tab. You're going to try a search for your topic in each of these following reference databases and the same search in Wikipedia. I'm going to show you very quickly here how you get to these specific databases. So, the fastest way to get to the library's webpage is library.emporia.edu, and we click on Databases. And then we would go to C for our first one. Credo reference. If you're off campus, you're going to be asked to enter your ESU username and password when you click on a database, just to authenticate you as a currently enrolled ESU student. And then you can just start searching for your information. Now, I'm probably not going to find here a specific article that talks about the opioid epidemic and public libraries. So I might have to just start typing opioid addiction, for example. And there's a very nice topic page here about opioid abuse. Now, this isn't specifically about public libraries, but I could use this as background information for my research on what's happening with opiates. What are the effects, tolerance, and physical dependence? Here's a nice article from the Conversation, an independent source of analysis from academic researchers, the opioid epidemic in 6 charts. This would be great for my background information, and then I can narrow it down a little bit more to public libraries. We would do the same thing for our other 2 databases mentioned. G for Gale Virtual Reference Library, do that same topic search. And O for Oxford Reference Premium. And then finally, I could go to Wikipedia. Again, I'm probably not going to find opioid epidemic and public libraries, but I certainly could type in opioid use disorder. Here we are. Opioid epidemic in the United States. Good background information that I need, and then again, narrowing it down to the effects of public libraries and what our responsibilities might be as librarians toward patrons who might be using. So let's go back to our research plan. So this is the type of search you're going to be doing in your topic, keeping notes throughout the searches about what actually worked, what didn't work, and then write which reference databases and or Wikipedia articles seem to be most useful for information about your topic and why. Then we're going to go back to the library's webpage and click on the Databases tab again, and we want you to look at databases under your subject area that would work. So again, if we go back over here, we're back under the A to Z databases list. I would certainly want to be looking for databases under Library and Information Science, such as Library and Information Science Source that I already mentioned. I should probably check out some medicine and health databases as well. So there might be some, such as Health Source, Nursing Academic Edition, that would give me more information about the opioid epidemic or the opioid crisis. And I could check out some other possible medical and health databases. Going back to our research plan, list databases that you think are going to be relevant to your topic, which one you're going to search first, why, and the types of resources that you think you're going to find in that database. What web resources could you search for information on your topic? So you're not going to say, I'm going to search Google. We already know that. Think more in terms of web resources, such as web pages, websites that you think would be useful for your topic. So again, for me, I might want to search out some web pages of public libraries in larger areas, but also smaller areas. Maybe I could do a comparison of urban libraries and rural public libraries. And I could look on those web pages for any policies or guidelines or any statements that they've made about how to handle patrons in difficult situations. That would be great to add for my background information. So I could talk about what I could use, provide my links, how did I find out, how did I know about those resources, and why I would go to them. Now, the recommended resources learning assessment is going to be kind of an annotated bibliography of articles, books, and other resources that you think are useful for your topic. Think about the elements of the process that you would go through to conduct your research. Am I going to search for databases? Am I going to search for websites? What am I going to do first? How am I going to evaluate what I find as well? Think about that for question 9. Now, the first draft of this web portfolio is actually going to be due later, not April 12th. So I'm going to provide that information for you. So considering the workload of your other courses this semester, what date do you want to have your web portfolio done? When would you have your introduction finished? Recommended resources, resources to avoid. Think about dates that you have coming up. And actually, I'm going to go back over here again. And if we go back home on our Canvas course, we actually have some other dates that will be coming up for these due dates. And the eventual web portfolio that you're going to be constructing on Wix will be due toward the end of the semester. So again, think about the fact that we have a very short time frame. We have less than 8 weeks. So think about some dates that you think are doable for you. And then just any other notes or thoughts that are related to your research plan. Finally, do a quick reflection. Have you ever done this type of research plan before? What did it look like? Did you think that actually mapping out this research plan, do you think that that's helpful? Why or why not? And I would write maybe about 5 or 6 sentences with this. This does seem like a long learning assessment. I do want you to be able to get a good start with it though, and just think again about a topic and then all the steps for planning your research. As always, if you have any other questions about what's expected, or how to start this learning assessment, do not hesitate to ask me. Scrolling back down one more time. The learning assessment is due on Friday, October 25th by 11:59 p.m. Now with learning assessments, there's actually a 2-day grace period for late assignments. So if you wound up submitting the learning assessment number 2 by 11:59 p.m. on October 27th, that's Sunday, you'd still be okay with that. That's just something to keep in mind. But if you run into any difficulties before then, email me if you have any questions, and good luck.